Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Date today is the 18th of November, year of our Lord 2020-24. Welcome to yet another edition of The Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Engel, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Got a nice little show for you guys today. Nice, sweet, and compact as it can be in 60 minutes. You know, we've been on a roll doing the full 60 these last few weeks. It's been like maybe 2 months since we've not done an episode. That's not even a little bit true, but it's maybe been like a month since we've done a show that wasn't the full 60. How did I do today? Look at the runtime. Did we do the full hour? Did we leave it all in the show? And did we do the full hour like we try to do here at The Coping Hour? A show, by the way, where we cover all of the biggest stories and we cover them from all angles. And we got some big stories to talk about today, but let's start with the one that is most fresh on my mind right now. We're taping this on a Sunday night, couple hours removed from the Kansas City Chiefs being handed their first loss of the season. Now, without really talking too much about the game itself, I do have two flags to plant here. So which one do I want to do first in regards to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills? Well, the first one, just to actually talk about the game, is that at the risk of sounding hyperbolic, I don't think there is a rivalry in sports right now. In sports, North American sports, that I consume with my two eyes more, that I get up for more than I do the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills. If I see that they're on the schedule, if I see it's a Saturday after, oh my God, the Chiefs and the Bills are playing tomorrow, I'm dropping what time is it? 3:30 Central Time? I'm dropping everything. I'm clearing my schedule and making sure that I have a 3-hour window blocked off that I get to watch these two teams face. I've spent all day racking my brain being like, what is something that I would find even remotely comparable in North American sports right now? Like if you look at college football, that would be the easiest example. I don't know, the Iron Bowl, I guess. In recent years, I can't lie and say that it hasn't given us any, noteworthy moments. Wasn't it literally a year ago that Jalen Milroe was like 4th and 100 and he fit a ball in a shoebox in the back of the end zone and Alabama won that game? You know, a big time throw the records out kind of rivalry. It doesn't matter if Auburn is 0 and 100, which in recent years has been the case more often than not. Shout out to the guy, God bless his soul, who emailed into the show, like I think as college football was starting, maybe like a week before it started, maybe week 0 it happened. Hey, Nick, you're a Michigan State fan. What can I expect out of Peyton Thorne? I didn't have that. He's like, I believe we could be a national championship roster, or at least a college football playoff roster. Like, what do you think? Peyton Thorne, you like the guy? I didn't have the heart to tell him that he fucking sucks. And what was it, like week 3 that Peyton Thorne ended up getting benched? And since then, he's been in and out. Has he been hurt? I don't know what's going on with Peyton Thorne. Hell no, he's not going to get you to the playoff unless Kenneth Walker is walking through that fucking door. No, Peyton Thorne is not that guy. But I don't know. Yeah, sure. On paper, yeah. Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, technically, but I'm a Michigan State fan. So which is what this list is about, I care, but not as much as I do about the Chiefs and the Bills, right? What else would there be? Michigan State? I mean, like, yeah. But when was the last time that those two teams played and there was consequence? Well, I just mentioned Kenneth Walker. It would have been that year, which was 3 years ago. Okay, that was cool. And then like most years since then, it's been like one of the teams is good. One of them is having an up year. It is still a throw the record out kind of, matchup, but the mid-2010s was fun when it was like Harbaugh and D'Antonio going back and forth at each other. That was really fun. There was a stretch of years where it was just Michigan State majority of the time throughout the duration of this rivalry, the last 100 years or so. It's mostly been Michigan, right? So I've been fortunate, honestly, to live at a point in the timeline where Michigan State has seen some success against Michigan, because that has not always been the case, and again, seldom has been the case at all. So outside of that, I'm sure there are some others that I could think of, but I don't know. Other than that, they're just kind of, they're fine. Talk about like the NBA. Some of you, like, you're a Warriors fan, you're a Clippers fan. You're going to say that. You're going to say, what about the Warriors and the Clippers? Maybe. That felt more fun as a rivalry when Lob City was happening and Golden State was on the up trajectory. When they were on the come up and Lob City was kind of on its way out, that's when you really started to see some battles between those two teams. And I remember there was a game, I believe it was a Christmas Day game at this point, over 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. Draymond got ejected on Christmas Day, and I was like, whoa. And that was really the game that put the rivalry on my radar. So I'm not going to say it's not a rivalry, because it is. But in the NBA, Knicks, Sixers, I mean, one of those teams gets dog walked most of the time, so not too sure about that. Anything else just kind of feels like, because with NBA rivalries, it's either just like, you think about like Mavs and the Suns, that's just Luka and Devin Booker, right? So it's like a player thing, or it's a snapshot in time narrative that's driving the rivalrous matchup in that moment, but then like a year could go by and we're not really looking at it through the same lens, you know what I mean? So like that just doesn't really exist that much. You can say like, what about Steph versus LeBron? I guess I'll give you that one. And in 2024, maybe I would be more inclined to tune into that. This is a very wordy way of trying to make my point, but this is just the mental exercise I've been doing all day, right? In 2024, I would be more inclined to get up for like a Steph versus LeBron, but that's just through virtue of there maybe not being that many more of those matchups that we actually get to watch. You know what I mean? More than it is actually me being interested in the outcome of that game or the consequence that it holds. So I'm saying all of this just to say, if the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills are playing, if Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are squaring off against each other, we haven't had a single dud. Don't believe we've had a single dud from those two. There's always something going on in those games, and that was no different today. There's just not a rivalry that I care more about in sports right now than these two teams playing, because it's like Josh Allen has the regular season success. He has Patrick Mahomes' number in the regular season, but as soon as it's crunch time and you get into the playoffs, what happens? The same thing that's been happening for the last 7 years. Has it been that long? Patrick Mahomes will win. Destiny arrives all the same, as Grimace once said. So I'm watching this game, and then the other flag that I want to plant is, I've kind of said some stuff like alluding to this in the past. I just don't know if I've ever just definitively said it, right? We want to plant our flag. Let's just definitively say this thing. Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. That for me right now is broadcast booth number one. And how I quantify that, how I define that, is if I turn on a game and I hear these two voices speaking, the wiring in my brain, the chemicals start to bubble. The wires start to spark a little bit, positive sparks, like a positive charge. Like if you put a positive on a negative on each other, or you put a red wire on a black wire, you're trying to jump a car. That's the game that I'm supposed to be watching. When I was growing up, that was, and I guess this is the echelon that I'm putting them in, right? This is the tier that I would be putting Nantz and Romo in the booth. This is the tier that I would be putting them in, is like a Kirk Herbstreit and Brent Musburger. If I heard Brent's voice at a college football game, I dropped everything and I was like, okay, this is the game of the week. This is the game that I'm supposed to be giving my attention to, because otherwise these two guys would not be calling it. If you want to honestly look at this, continue to look at this through the CBS lens, Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson, that was another booth that I was like, if they're calling it, I'm watching it. You know what I mean? I think sneaky, one of the reasons that the Johnny Manziel takes down Alabama game in 2012 was able to be immortalized the way that it was, outside of obviously what he and like Ryan Swope did on the field, was because Vern Lundquist was amazing on that call. You know, the famous play that Johnny had in the red zone where he like bounces around in the pocket and he like bumps, I think it was like one of his own offensive linemen, and the ball kind of comes out, he recatches it, and then he launches it into the back of the end zone to Ryan Swope. Vern Lundquist's call of, oh my gracious, dog, chills to this day if I hear that call, because I remember even as a kid being like, holy shit, what a call that was by Vern Lundquist, and him retiring and Brent Musburger retiring really, really broke my heart. Jim Nantz has still got plenty of gas left in the tank, right? So I just love hearing them, and especially the fact that CBS usually gets that game. So we usually get to hear Jim Nantz and Tony Romo call the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills, which more often than not ends up being the premier matchup of, if not the week, then of the entire season, regular or postseason. And it was really no different in this game. It was truly outstanding. Now, what was funny, and I got to put a hand up here, right? It's the Coping Hour. We do cover all the biggest stories and cover them from all angles, but this is also a tattletale show. We snitch on ourselves all the time. I'm not afraid to put a hand up and be like, I was wrong about this thing, even if you at home would otherwise never know that this thing happened, right? This is my way of holding myself accountable accountable and keeping myself in check. So the game kicks off, and I say to my girlfriend, I go, I think this is going to be the game where Patrick Mahomes, like, doesn't sleepwalk, but, like, doesn't just do the thing where he just makes all of the right plays and then is fucking Superman at the end. I think this is the game where we get the offensive explosion and he goes for, like, 300 yards. 45 seconds into the game, and that's literally 45 seconds into the game, Patrick Mahomes throws an interception. Whoops. And I was like, but that's not going to be that's not going to be the game that this is. And it wasn't, to be fair. You know, Josh Allen had an equally wild interception that he threw later in the game. I think it was in the second half, which sucked because Buffalo actually gets they have a really dynamic special teams play. They get the ball on a punt return in Kansas City territory. They end up getting it to like a 4th and 2, 4th and 3. Josh Allen just makes a boneheaded play. They don't even get to capitalize on the field position. A field goal there would have put them up, I think, 2 possessions. It didn't matter, whatever. I don't even remember what Kansas City ended up doing with the ball after they got the pick. But it's like, here's the other take that I had. Does Xavier Worthy have the dumbest like spatial awareness in football right now? This is the second time I've seen him do something in the last 3 weeks, I think, where he just like wasn't aware of where he was on the field and just kind of like the catch he made today was tough, no doubt, but there was no one around him. And the adjustment that he made was just like fractions of seconds, maybe a full second too late, and he was out of bounds. It would have been a 40-yard pickup for Kansas City in a moment where it kind of felt like their backs were against the wall and they really needed a chunk play, and they got it, but Xavier Worthy just wasn't in bounds. And the other play that I'm talking about, I think it was the Tampa Bay game that they played on Monday night, that he had something similar happen. He just wasn't aware of where he was on the field, and he thought he was backing into the end zone and was getting a touchdown catch, but instead he was just like out of bounds, and it was just an incompletion. There was nobody around him. So it's like, damn, brother. And then the other piece of this is like, it's really fun to watch Kansas City do all these gadget plays. Like, it's really, really fun. But is there part of you that's like, you guys are already kind of thin at receiver? Like, yeah, the D-Hop thing helped. But in terms of like these like really dynamic quicksters, like Xavier Worthy, they run him on a lot of like jet sweeps and reverses and shit like that, and they try to get him out in space, and he's just going downhill, and like it's not a non-zero chance. There is a non-zero chance that every time that happens, like he could get his head taken off by a free safety or like a linebacker that he just doesn't see. And then, you know what I mean? And like, then what happens? So those plays, every single time, I'm like, clutch my pearls a little bit. I'm like, don't get hurt. Oh my God, don't get hurt. It's not just because he's on my fantasy team. I'm just like, oh my God, please don't get hurt. Don't let this happen to me. Awesome game. Josh Allen, 26-yard touchdown on 4th down. What a ballsy call by Sean McDermott to let the offense go out there, trusting his guys and getting that done, because the smart thing, this is why those coaches get paid as much as they do, is to make those situational decisions. You know what I mean? Because they kicked the field goal, which it's not a sure thing that you make that, but what were they, like the 27-yard line with Tyler Bass? It's probably going to be good. But no, they just leave the offense out there. Would have gone up they would have gone up by 5, and then you're forcing Patrick Mahomes with like a little over 2 minutes and change, give him the ball back with 2 timeouts. They have to score a touchdown. History would suggest that that's probably what was going to happen. You know, in the past, in this rivalry, all you needed to do was give Patrick Mahomes 13 seconds and he could score a touchdown. You know what I mean? But Josh Allen, like, just housed it. He just housed it. It was awesome. Beast of a run. You know, I'd say the thing about Tyler Bass, the funny thing at the beginning of this game, I say all that really nice stuff about Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. And then the very first touchdown was James Cook, I think is who it was, that Buffalo scores in the beginning of this game after they get the pick on Mahomes. 45 seconds into the game, he smokes the extra point. He misses it. Like, he just misses it. If you were watching it at home, you're like, oh, wow, he just missed the extra point. Jim Nantz was like, and it's through. It's good. Tony was like, nope, it was not. Jim was like, oh, no, they said he pushed it, and it was not good. And I was like, what the hell was that? They come back from commercial, and they're still fucking talking about the fact that they're like trying to defend their position on it. They're like, oh, I thought from our angle here, it looked like it was good. But it wasn't, Jim. Get over it. It's fine. Hey, it happens. We've seen broadcasters do that all the time. You guys got a weird angle on it. It's fine. Just look at the monitor next time, Jim. It's going to be easier for you if you just look at the monitor. But they were outstanding in this game. We did get one funny Tony Romo thing. It was, I think it was the Amari Cooper insane adjustment over the shoulder catch. He got both feet down, had possession. They're looking at a replay, and we did get one of those Romo-isms where he's like, ooh, Jim, ooh, like he just said, he made a bunch of noises like under his breath, like not the I don't know, Jim, like where he's like trying to do it, like it was almost like involuntary. He's just like making funny fucking noises. That's his thing, man. He's just really excited whenever cool shit happens in a football game. He's literally just like you, watching the game at home, who gets excited about watching cool shit happen in a football game. He just has a microphone on for the duration of it, for those 60 minutes. You just get to hear his unfiltered reaction to those moments, and I think that is, in a lot of ways, what makes Tony Romo so great. Jim Nantz is just a professional's professional. There's just not many guys like him still doing it, especially with the experience that he has. So that was a really, really fun game. Also, just some other brief NFL notes, mainly just one. Do I have to take the Steelers seriously? Do I have to fucking do this? Do I have to? Because for me, it's not even like a how are they this good? It's like, why? For me, it's more like, why? And I don't want to do the thing where we spent 3 episodes talking about Philly sports. I do not want to now shift the focus to Pittsburgh. I don't want to do that because I don't care. But if it was Justin Fields doing this, it would be way more palatable to me. But the fact that Russell Wilson went from being hilariously bad and like a meme, and like the one thing about Russell Wilson for his whole career was his escapability, his mobility in the pocket. And then he puts on a bunch of weight to like protect his body because he's like, I just can't keep taking these hits in Denver. And that completely destroyed his escapability and his mobility outside of the pocket. So that was one big reason that he sucked with them. But then he like goes to Pittsburgh and he completely reinvents himself. Him and Mike Tomlin are like, awesome. Fine. Because it's not about TJ Watt. It's not about Najee Harris. It's not about Freiermuth. It's not about George Pickens. It's not about Mike Williams. It's not about any of the guys. It is about Russell Wilson, though. But what are they now, 8-2? Dude, I don't know what voodoo shit Mike Tomlin does. He have a voodoo doll of Lamar Jackson. He just puts pins in it on the sideline. He, like, has Lamar's number in his career. Like, Lamar just doesn't beat the Steelers. Like, sneaky does not beat the Steelers. It's bizarre. Every single Baltimore loss this year has been like, ugh, damn it. Fine, they can lose this one. But the Steelers are now number 1 in the division, leading the division. Was that the AFC North? Is that what they're in? Fine. Now I'm going to have to go and listen to NFL Countdown in the morning. Not NFL Countdown, but like Get Up and First Take. And they're going to be like, are we taking the Steelers? This is me doing a Greeny impression. Dan Orlovsky, are we taking the Pittsburgh Steelers seriously after yet another victory? Russell Wilson looked outstanding, and they beat the Ravens once again. Dan Orlovsky, they're all going to say that they're taking them seriously for the Super Bowl because they've slowly but surely been doing it more and more and more over the last few weeks. I'm just like, fine, let's just do it. We've kind of stopped doing that with Washington. Everybody seemed to settle with the Commanders that they are a really good bad team. Like, they're really fun, but if they have to play a good team, they just don't win. They just don't. Because that's the stat, isn't it? That they kick the shit out of teams that are sub 500. But if you're even like one game over 500, the odds are in your favor that the Commanders are going to lose and poop their pants on the field. So, okay. What are some other NFL notes? Well, we said a week ago after the Chiefs beat the Broncos on a game-winning field goal. I'm sorry, they blocked what would have been a game-winning field goal to remain undefeated to go 9-0. We were like, that doesn't happen in the NFL. Blocking a game-winning field goal attempt does not happen in the NFL, much less to improve the 9-0. It just did again. The second week in a row, that exact thing, minus the whole undefeated piece of it, did actually happen again, and the Packers beat the Bears. Now, I wanted the Bears to lose, but, well, I guess I did kind of want them to win just because it would have been funny. And at this point with their season, who fucking cares? It'd be funnier if the Packers lost. Also because the Packers have won now, 11 in a row. But if the Bears were going to lose, that was definitely the funniest fashion that it could have happened in. So do I want to say that's never going to happen again? I don't know. Murphy's Law. It could happen next week. So does that mean it will happen at some point throughout NFL history moving forward? History moving forward. What would be the word for that? What word am I not thinking of? NFL history moving forward. Future history. Future history. Is history past tense? If I say that we need to embrace history or acknowledge history, that would be past tense. This does not feel like something that is going to be worth trying to figure out on the fly because I've kind of been on a roll. What's something else from the NFL that I wanted to talk about? I think that covers the bases. Folks, this is the Coping Hour. We cover all of the biggest stories and we cover them from all angles. What was a bigger story this weekend, not just in North America, but in the entire world, than Mike Tyson returning to the ring and getting the shit kicked out of him by Jake Paul? What was a bigger story than that? Technically nothing. You know, it is crazy to me. This is really one of those stories that normally I stay out of for like a week. I let some dust settle. I let us get a little bit removed from it. We zoom out on the whole thing, and then I kind of tackle it. But the same way that I love dynasties and I love repeated success on this program, I'm the same way with being a slave to spectacle, right? In a lot of ways, dynasty is, it is spectacle. But when you have Mike Tyson returning to the ring, 58 years old or not, that is something that you'll never see as somebody who has never gotten to see Mike Tyson fight before. I know he did the exhibition against Roy Jones Jr. just about 4 years ago now. That was like, I don't want to say that didn't count and wasn't real, because it's like, well, if you're going to say that about that fight, then what the hell was this? For sure. So there are a lot of people right now who are just like mad that they even watched it, or rather that they couldn't watch it, because that was the B story to this whole thing, is that Netflix didn't even have the bandwidth to handle as much traffic as they were facing. As of this recording, there have been estimates to how many concurrent viewers Netflix may have had at one point. Even the duration, we haven't seen those numbers yet. I'm sure they will be out in the very, very near future. But it does have to be like Super Bowl numbers, because Netflix has done live events before. They've really slowly started to dip their toe in the water, but when you don't have the bandwidth for something like a Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, it does kind of muddy the water on this whole thing moving forward, because you saw a streaming company gaslight hundreds of millions of people, tens of millions of people, into believing that they had bad internet. Which, to be fair, we do, but I was even watching it. I was like, I don't think this is us. I think this is actually this is on Netflix. This is like a Netflix hardware issue. This is not a user error on our part. Yeah, no, like some people just straight up could not watch the stream. And then those people rerouted to like Stream East, the illegal streaming sites, the piracy sites. And so that's pretty, whoa. But I don't know, man. Look, it was very exciting for me to talk about the undercards. There's the biggest cardinal sin of this whole damn thing, is if you are the main event, what's like the golden rule? Don't get outboxed or outfought if it's a different combat sport by the undercards. Goddamn, did that happen? Was it Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano? Holy shit. Listen, I've seen somewhere between 15 to 20 combat sports across the board live in my life, right? So I haven't watched that many. I have a decent idea of how these things go and what to expect and all that, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this is like my world or my dojo. But I can sit here and tell you very confidently that Serrano-Taylor fight was the best fight I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen two people going at each other for, I think they did 10 rounds, the entire time. There was no defense that was being played. It was, the broadcast kept saying, it's like Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Dog, that's exactly what it was. And then, so the one, she kept like leading with her head, and then Serrano gets this huge gash, and she can't see for half the damn fight, but she boom, 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 haymaker, 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 boom, 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 boom. That was the whole fight. It was awesome. And then she lost. Everybody's like, what the hell? Huh? And then like Serrano's. And so the reason that I was rooting for Serrano is because Puerto Rico. Obviously, we're going to root for Puerto Rico on this program. Anybody who goes out there is like, I'm Puerto Rican. I identify as a Puerto Rican. I was born in Puerto Rico. Then you have my attention, my curiosity, all of the Calvin Candy shit. Don't really want to compare myself to Calvin Candy when I'm talking about watching a combat sport, but for all intents and purposes, right? That was awesome. That was the real fight of the night. But the part that I found really exciting was, is exciting the word? Let's walk through this one. So they finally get to the main event, and Jake comes out with his entourage, and it's like him and Logan in the car, and it's going real slow, and like all the bells and whistles, and they're doing Phil Collins in the air tonight. It's like, haha, that's pretty fucking funny. Like, get out of the car and get in the ring. And they finally do that, and then they're like, Mike, Tyson! And I start getting chills. I'm like, just hearing that, because I've never, you know what I mean? I've just never gotten to see it before. And I'm like, whoa, Iron Mike. And the crowd's going nuts. You got 70 some odd thousand people there. Like, it's a big moment. And then the thing opens and Mike is alone. There's no entourage. Now, eventually they did kind of materialize behind him, but that seemed to be like just like his team. Like, it wasn't like his coaches. Like, there wasn't really any, you know what I mean? But the look in his eye, I went from like kind of smiling, like, wow, there he is. This is really cool. What a cool moment. Even if he's going to get his ass beat. Like, this is a cool moment. But then very quickly I saw his face and I was like, I can't tell if he's like fighting demons right now and is like going to decapitate Jake Paul and we're all just wrong about this whole thing. Did you guys hear that? Did that pick up on the mic? That was guns. That was 100% guns going on outside. I'm going to leave all this in. I want to see if it happens again. It's 100% guns. This is just sirens. I don't even think you guys will be able to hear the sirens. Let's get back into this. I'm like, is he about to kill Jake Paul? Or is he like, fuck, like I'm just sad. Like the look in his eye was just really kind of starting to bum me out. And then eventually it starts. And so the whole time, Jake Paul was like, I'm going to knock him out in the 4th or the 5th round. And Mike Tyson was like, if he doesn't run away from me, then he's going to die in the 1st round. It's like, all right, Mike. Oh, and I don't want to miss this. The fact that, yes, we did get to see Mike Tyson wearing like assless chaps in the locker room. Mike Tyson's ass was on, I don't want to say national television because it was Netflix, but for all intents and purposes, about 100 some odd million people saw Mike Tyson's ass just in the locker room. And the cameraman did a really, really subtle job, or not so subtle job, of trying to zoom in on the back of his head to get his ass out of the shot. That was funny. Man, what a weird fight it ended up being, though, because, look, anybody with a brain, that's the craziest thing about the whole thing, is at one point in the build-up to this, Tyson was like minus 300 to win. I don't remember if it was to knock out or like just by decision, but to beat Jake Paul, it was like minus 300. And you have this entire generation of people who are like, I don't care how old he is or what the fuck ever. Like, it's Iron Mike. It's the baddest motherfucker to ever live. He's going to kill Jake Paul. What, this kid from social media, this TikToker, this YouTuber. And then you have people who are like, in our generation, I say our generation, I don't know how old you are listening to this, but in like my generation who, dog, we've watched the ebbs and flows of Jake Paul's career up to this point. It's every day blow. It's every day, bro, something Disney Channel fro. This is Team 10, bitch. Who the hell are flipping you? Like, we remember that, right? And then eventually, like, we remember his brother, like, going to Japan and, like, filming a dead body. Like, all of it, right? And so to see them kind of grow up and embrace being the villain, something that we on this program really admire. If you're going to be the villain and you're going to do villain shit, embrace it. Jake Paul does that. Logan Paul does that so well, he turned that into a vocation, and he does WWE shit, right? They're both really, really good at controlling their brands, even if you think that they're fucking assholes. And so Jake Paul, up to this point, has had a, like, somewhat successful fighting career. Some would say very successful, but again, this is not my world. All I can do is look at the numbers and the highlights and kind of give you that. But at the end of the day, he's fighting Mike Tyson. I don't really care how old he is. Yeah, but that was the whole thing, though, was that Mike Tyson is 100 years old, and it was just kind of fucking sad. It's just kind of sad. The broadcast booth couldn't figure out what the hell to talk about. So the main guy kept being like, oh, he's biting his glove. He's biting his glove. Roy Jones Jr. kept being like, yeah, that's not good. He shouldn't be biting his glove. And then the guy would be like, no, I've actually seen in some old fights, like, this is just a tick that he has. Like, this is just something that he does. The guy's like, nah, he shouldn't do that. And they just, like, kept arguing about that for, like, 3 rounds. And then if it wasn't that, it was Roy Jones Jr. being like, I don't like his legs. Look at his legs. I don't like his fucking legs. Look at that knee brace. Look at this old piece of shit out there. Mike cannot handle this. He can barely stand. He's wobbling around. It's like, what is happening right now? Why are we doing this? Why is this even on the air? What is this? This is wild. So here's my conspiracy. Very soft conspiracy. I haven't seen this anywhere. I don't know if I'm the harbinger of this for some of you. Do we wonder if there was like a handshake agreement on the side where Mike was like, maybe he, in the past, that is a tick and he does bite his gloves. I don't know. Maybe it is. Do you just wonder if because he bit his glove a lot, if he did that, it was a signal to Jake Paul to, like, fucking relax. You, like, medically, you cannot knock me out. I will die if you knock me out. Don't do it. So if he bit his glove, it was like a, hey, fucking chill out for a second. Because what we anticipated this fight to be was Jake Paul. Was it 8 rounds? Jake Paul just jabs for 5 rounds. They ended up holding each other for 90% of the damn fight. Maybe Mike tries to throw some shit, but like nothing's going to connect. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what happened. It's like basically what happened. And then it's just kind of over. Did you guys also wonder if at the end, there's like 10 seconds left on the clock in the last round, and Jake just kind of like, he like kind of, you know, does like a bow thing, like respect, brother, like it's over. Like he's just giving Mike his flowers for a second. If Mike was going to kind of snap in that moment, and while Jake is kind of bowing and like doing some respect shit, Mike just fucking kills his ass, like dead. I was kind of wondering if it didn't happen. That didn't happen though. That did not end up happening. It's weird. It's a weird fight. I still don't really feel like I wasted my time though. Maybe that's where I'm a little bit different than what I've seen in digital spaces. People are like, oh, this could have been an email. I guess. But the Floyd Mayweather-Conor McGregor fight wasn't that good either. That was literally just like jab, jab, jab. Mayweather, famously a defensive boxer, especially when you get him into these exhibitions. What do you guys left a comment about that? It's like he just shows up, dances around for 12 rounds, collects 50 million, and then it's like, I'm 50-0. I'm literally 50-0. Yeah, I guess. Otherwise, it's a weird fight. Felt bad watching it. But I had fun, and it's still a memory just because it was bad and it didn't go the way that anybody wanted it to go. The fact that anybody had money on Tyson is fucking insane. It's so insane. People like Jake before the fight was like, I almost said before the show. It's basically what it was. Fucking theater was what that was. But like middle school theater, like 8th grade drama class shit. That's what that was. He's like, if I win, it's just going to be excuses. I mean, yeah, he's 100 years old, and his brain is probably still bleeding from, like, fights that he had 30 years ago. And I don't really, there's the other piece of this that sucks. It's like everybody's treating Mike Tyson like he's a Make-A-Wish kid. It's like, well, no, but when you're fighting a dude who's 27 and on the same amount of steroids that you're on, and is just in his physical prime, like, yeah, congrats on that $20 million, though. Congrats on that $20 million. The note that I had about this fight was, I think my biggest thing about boxing is if you want to pull out the slimiest and weaseliest looking people that you've ever seen in your life, put on a combat sport, put on a main event, and just see who's sitting ringside. Because it's like the secret money people. Like, it's the wealthy people that you don't know their faces. You know what I mean? But they just like have a look to them, and you're like, what is this? These are the people that hang out in the shadows. Just a bunch of greasy fucking people. Like, what? Slimy fucking people. Any combat sport. Yeah, celebrities attend these events, for sure. But the immediate ringside, I don't know. It's like the Kentucky Derby. It's like horse racing. Who are these people? There's a lot of... Yeah, there's famous people here, but who's the other people? There's a lot of money here. F1 races, specifically like Monaco. Think all those yachts there belong to Ryan Gosling? No. They belong to dudes the shadow people, basically. Boxing is one of those events, which is also just kind of weird in and of itself, right? It's like the lizard rich people of the world, like the Illuminati people of the world, all go to watch like two severely underpaid, not in this instance, 60 million combined in earnings between these two people. But like UFC is a good example of this. Like, they go to see people fight. I'd made the joke about Calvin Candy earlier. Doesn't it kind of feel like that a little bit? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting off the rails here. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson went exactly how everybody thought it was going to go. Minus Netflix pooping their pants on this whole operation. Whoops, Netflix. I wonder what this does for live events in the future. Probably just get more dedicated bandwidth to be able to handle the traffic. Because aren't they doing NFL games on Christmas this year? Whoa. Are we sure? I don't know if it's going to be the same numbers, but it's going to be a lot of people watching. People just like having it on passively in the background. How many households are going to have that on? It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of them. copinghoursubs@gmail.com. Spelled phonetically. Email available in the description wherever it is that you listen to this program. Kind of in that same vein, why don't we do this one? This one comes into us from Raz. Hope I'm saying that. It's R-A-Z. Just want to say it's not Raz. There's no way. Maybe it is. Where did it say Raz, though? Hope I got it right, brother. Subject line, sports consumption has been ruined forever. Hey, Nick, I know this point has been made many times before by people way smarter and better with words than me. Don't downplay yourself, Raz. Come on. Back to the email. But I've noticed an absurd upshoot in gambling content this year as I watch sports. It's not that I haven't seen it before, but I'm working at a job at a campground supervising kids where I usually only have about 1.5 hours a day where I can actually use any electronics. In this free time, I try to watch the basketball that's on or go through highlights if I miss some big games. But in between, it feels like sports betting gets brought up literally every minute or so. Look, I'm casually into sports betting and will make a parlay or two every couple of weeks to keep games interesting so I can have a reason to watch Bulls-Wizards games on League Pass. But this content is getting absurd. It's not just the advertisers, but the league itself, as well as any content that discusses sports, whether it's ESPN or random Twitter accounts. Is there even a point where people are going to draw a line and say, enough already? Or is this just going to keep getting worse? Also, on Friday, you read a Steve Kerr Coach of the Year email that was sent by my old college roommate, Theo. He's the one that got me into you, and I've been a Coping Hour fan since episode 1. Wow. He's one of the coolest, funniest people that I know, and I can't thank him enough for getting me into you. Also, can't thank you enough for giving me a podcast about sports that I can listen to on road trips with my girlfriend that she won't fall asleep to. Hell yes. And then he actually included a picture with Theo. Now, for those of you who didn't listen to the previous episode, Theo, his friend that he's talking about here, sent in a really fucking funny email about Steve Kerr. I didn't say anything that interesting to it, but the way that the email was worded was very, very funny. So the fact that these two dudes are friends is awesome. That being like a piece of lore is very, very cool. The second piece of this, my absolute favorite compliment that any of you guys can give me is that your significant others will listen to this show. And I do mean like specifically men who are dating women. Because if you're like two dudes, well, no, a lesbian relationship too. Yeah, two women. If there's a woman who listens, and then, yeah, it's just a girlfriend. That's, I think, the take here is if you get your girlfriend to listen to it, then I'm like, because that's how I watch sports. Every time I turn on a basketball game, I say, how do I invoke the average woman's brain to analyze, to talk about and analyze this game? If I were a chick. And that's how you get takes like, you know, when I watched Jalen Hurts at Alabama, it was just the way that his hair stuck out of his helmet that I was like, this is my fucking quarterback. Has nothing to do with how he plays. It's just he looks really cool. He looks really cool, and I go, that guy. That's the one that I like very much. Guess what? That works. Have a pretty decent hit rate on that. So I'm halfway teasing, but I'm also being very serious. That is my favorite thing to hear, and I'm very happy to hear that. I've sidetracked on this whole operation. First of all, you said, look, I'm casually into sports betting. Hell yeah, brother. Make those parlays. Because, like, if you know your limit, if, like, every few weeks you're like, hey, man, I just got paid. Let me throw 5 on this. Let me throw 4 legs together. Let me throw 5 on this. It'll net me $60. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is like the commercials say, right? Like when you start to chase your losses and all that shit. Because I've been there. I got really in the weeds with it when it first became legal in Illinois, probably about 4 years ago. Like right before I started YouTube. Like literally right before I started YouTube. The Bucks were in the playoffs. I was working downtown at like an interactive theater retail space. And in between, like, me doing stuff, like, I would go in the back of house and I would, like, check my parlays. And once I saw one leg busted, I would, like, put $15 on a different leg to be like, well, if I hit this, then it'll make up for the last 6 bets that I missed. I didn't have that money. Like, I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't good for it, but I was still spending it. So I've been in the weeds with it, and that's why I don't do it anymore. It's like one of the only things in my life that I had a really bad problem with, and I was able to overcome that. I still don't really know how I did it, because it didn't end up being a money thing. Because like I said, then I immediately started YouTube, and I was making more money than I ever had in my life at the time. And then just kind of didn't gamble anymore. Well, I guess because it was the off season for all sports, and I wasn't going to bet on a fucking baseball game because I'm not a degenerate. The people who bet on like Indian field hockey and they stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning to see what those people are fucking sickos. Those people, that's when you call the number at that point. You know what I mean? But you got it down, brother. You're good. So you say here, is there ever a point where people are just going to draw a line and say, enough already? Or is this just going to keep getting worse? I've been wondering the same thing, right? So at some point there will be this like watershed moment with gambling and the leagues that it partners with. And I've tried to identify like what is that thing going to be that makes these leagues pump the brakes on the whole operation. And the only thing that I've been able to settle on, and I don't really like this because I don't like that my brain immediately jumps to the most violent thing, right? But I think it will be like a fan doing some physical shit to a player for fucking up a parlay, right? If they got a 9-legger going and KD bricks some shit and, you know, somebody does something crazy to Kevin Durant, maybe that. And it's sort of this like reckoning moment for, you know what I mean? And the only reason I say Kevin Durant specifically is because all-time poster Kevin Durant, like Hall of Fame internet poster Kevin Durant, guy tweeted him, the dude who tells people to stop gambling and get a job promoting FanDuel, crying emoji, because Kevin Durant like promoted FanDuel. KD quote tweeted it and said, no, I tell you to stop complaining about this life that you've committed to. When you lose, there's finger pointing. When you win, there's gloating about how smart you are about seeing the future. No gratitude to the service workers like myself. I'm sick of it. Get your shit off, Kevin. Honestly, get your shit off. So I thought that was interesting, but otherwise I don't really know what would make these leagues kind of back off a little bit. Another thing that I think is worth pointing out, I don't really know if this is worth pointing out, but I believe it's Flutter Entertainment. They are the parent company of a bunch of major gambling sites. I don't think it's DraftKings and FanDuel, but it's one of them. And then like BetAG and just a bunch of like really smaller ones, just like betting platforms, like 15 of them. And I don't remember if it was that their fiscal year just ended or if they're going into Q4 right now. But they reported massive losses in their gambling sector that they own. And what they reported was that it was due to, quote, unfavorable sports outcomes, unquote. Do you know what that means? It means that the bettors won too much money. It means that the house did not win for the last quarter for Flutter Entertainment. And you wonder what goes into that. Do you wonder if it's these same game parlays that are constantly juiced to us? You talk about them being segments on any show that you're watching. It's like ESPN Bet, or you watch CBS, or you watch Fox, you watch FanDuel Sports Network as it is now, you watch NBC Sports, whatever it is, right? Somebody always has their own parlay that gets juiced. A lot of your favorite podcasters might have a parlay, right? Like it goes on and on and on. Sometimes they're too juiced. Sometimes. Or like, there's always one that's like Derrick Henry, anytime score, like shit like that. Jahmyr Gibbs, anytime score. It's like, yeah, like they're just too easy. Sometimes they're just too easy. My girlfriend floated this out there. I was wondering how true this might be. I think it's DraftKings. They always do the promo where they're like, if you bet $5, you get $200 in bets instantly deposited into your account. Now, that's not then $195 that you can cash out with. No, you do have to use it in the app and turn that into real dollars. And it's not that would immediately turn into a minus $195 net loss for Flutter Entertainment, but you do wonder how that piece of it works, if that is even part of the equation at all. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because, not to go all tinfoil hat, but if you guys will indulge me, unfavorable sports outcomes. That's what we heard. Do you wonder if maybe there's going to be a fix or two? Just keep an eye on the lines if this is something that's interesting to you. Keep an eye on some over-unders, some money lines. I don't know about parlays, but I don't know. On all of it. On all of it. If there's something weird that happens, reverse engineer it and go back to the pregame odds and shit like that. Because the house will get their money back. And they lost a lot of it. It's like a $30 billion industry that Flutter Entertainment itself is in possession of. I don't know. I don't have anywhere else to go with that. I just hear gambling companies suffering substantial losses. How do we recoup that? we fuck over the bettors because they've already won too much money. It's not as simple as people make one bet and get out. That is not how the average person works. That is not how, especially the way that this is marketed now, especially the demographic that this is marketed to now. Sure, there are plenty of you out there who are 30 years old, and maybe you're like this guy, and you're like, yeah, dog, like I bet every few weeks I'll throw something down. Great. There are a lot of you out there who are healthy and responsible gamblers. There are also some of you out there who are not. You're not. Additionally, there are a lot of 18-year-olds out there. Do you have to be 21 to gamble these days online? Surely there are some states where you don't, right? There are a lot of 21-year-olds out there who are in like frat houses. They're in college. That's who this is marketed towards these days, is when those dudes get together with the fellas, they hammer some beers, they start live betting. That's when you get it. Man, that's dangerous too. I'm watching an NFL game. You can live bet possessions. How's this one going to end? A punt, a turnover, a touchdown, a field goal? Oh, you said turnover? What kind of turnover? We'll give you some juiced odds if you say it's a pick. You want a pick six? You want a pick six? We'll give you plus 45,000 that there's a pick six that happens right here. What, am I not supposed to put $6 on that? You know what I mean? That's what your brain will tell you in that moment if you don't have that discipline and that restraint. It's an epidemic. But to your point, we've talked about that a lot. Doesn't mean that it is any less important or prevalent in our culture that we call sports in 2024. Coping Hour Subs at gmail.com, spelled phonetically, email available in the description wherever it is that you listen to this program. Got a lot of emails about De'Aaron Fox. Got a lot of them about De'Aaron Fox. Can't read them all. Instead, I'm going to read the one that made me laugh the hardest. This one comes into us from Andy. Andy, welcome to the show. Subject line, the King of Kangs. And last night, while I was enjoying some beverages out on the town with a group of associates I call the fellas, primary focus was slamming down some beers Stone Cold Steve Austin style while watching a very miserable and unfortunately predictable boxing match between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. While all this is going down, De'Aaron Fox of my beloved Sacramento Kings apparently put up a franchise record 60 points in an overtime loss to Minnesota. Naturally, the greatest scoring performance in Kings history is overshadowed by America's version of Chick Hicks winning the Piston Cup. Just to break the email for a second, that line right there is what got this email in the show. The first time I read that, I did a nasal exhale laugh. I went, that's good. That's about as good as you can hope for when you send in an email, something like that. Anyways, back to the email. So I wrote all of that before Fox dropped 49 in the second night of a back-to-back. Cannot believe this is my life.jpg. Smiling through it all. My favorite player on my favorite team putting up 109 points in the last 28 hours is truly surreal. Light the beam. Andy, thank you very much for this. That's the takeaway, right? 109 points from De'Aaron Fox in a little over 24 hours is bananas. And I had a take on the shoot-around maybe a week or so ago, a word to Bobby Shmurda, where I said that I was really happy for Cavs fans, honestly, because they have a guy, their number one guy, is someone who is as good of a dude on the court as he is off of it. And I mean that so genuinely. It's not cope. Like, sure, yeah, I would love Donovan Mitchell on my fucking team. But I do just mean that genuinely for Cavs fans, that I'm happy for them, that they just have that as their guy, because he's so likable and he's just awesome. Like, he's just really, really good. And I'm saying that just to say, I feel the same way about De'Aaron Fox. Now, I don't really know how good of a dude he is off the court, but I imagine he's not a piece of shit. The clip of him being shown the Kings' new mascot for when they wear their alternates is what it is, where he's like, what the fuck is that, was really funny. Like, he's just a really funny guy. When he came into the league, / when he was at Kentucky, I hated him because I hated the hair. I didn't like the hair. I thought he looked like a kid, and it just bothered me. I didn't know what it was about it. It was kind of like, who did it remind me of? I don't know, but it bothered me. And he got a buzz cut, and I was like, no, you're just awesome. The other piece of it was that I was a Lonzo guy, so him bitching Lonzo when Lonzo was at UCLA. They played twice that year, I think, and then De'Aaron Fox got in his ass in the tournament. I was just devastated over that. I was like, De'Aaron Fox is never going to be as good as Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball's never had 60 in an NBA game, and then followed that up the very next night with 49 points. There's something about a guy in the NBA. There are not that many dudes who can do this. We can talk about how talented the NBA is and how it's never been this good before, and how like the disparity of talent between now and even what it was 10 years ago is just like night and day. Like, it's insane how many great players there are in the NBA. There are not that many dudes who can legit get to their spots whenever they want, however they want, and knock that shit down the way that De'Aaron Fox can. Like, it's so fun. It's so mesmerizing to watch. And the other piece of it that I really enjoy. So in that Timberwolves game, he had a sequence where I think it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker. In real time, it looked like he made Nas' knees slap together and he made him fucking touch earth. And then he covered 1,000,000 feet. He like covered so much ground on a step back and knocked down a three. And then you watch the replay, and it's kind of like De'Aaron just like hip checked his ass into the ground and then covered a shit ton of ground on the step back and still knocked down the three. And then the other piece of it was Kevin Huerter had a missed three. De'Aaron Fox gets the rebound. It's a very long rebound. And like doesn't even think about it. It's like he doesn't even take notice of how much, like who's around him, how much space, how much time he would have. His brain is just like, I'm shooting this motherfucking ball. Because like I know I'm hot right now. Also, I'm De'Aaron Fox. And I just love a dude like that. And I love something that producer extraordinaire Rudy St. Clair and I were talking about on the shoot around is we love the players who just like dribble. Even if they don't make the shot and they take 1,000,000 shots a game, they just like dribble a bunch and do a bunch of cool shit. They have a ball on a string and like do voodoo dark magic shit with the ball. Like that's just really, really fun. De'Aaron Fox is like that, right? Only he makes like most of his shots. Only he makes like most of them. And I think for a Sacramento Kings team that this year specifically, well, more like this year because of how last year went, has kind of gotten like pushed down a little bit in terms of like the teams that people are like quote unquote taking seriously or like paying attention to. Well, no, I don't know if this year that would be the case because the people were really curious to see how the DeRozan thing was going to go because that was just a really interesting place for him to end. How are they going to use DeMar DeRozan? I guess they're going to use him to, was he even playing in that game? I have no idea if he was even playing in that game. All I was able to do was watch like a 9-minute supercut of all the makes and misses that De'Aaron Fox had. Honest, gun to my head, couldn't tell you if I saw DeMar DeRozan in any of those clips. I could not tell you. And then the other piece of it is they have Domantas Sabonis on their team, who is like a very divisive player. I know there's like a running gimmick again over on the shoot around where when I joined the show, they were in hot shit with people because they kept forgetting to put him on like rankings and like lists and shit like that. And so people were like, oh, you guys hate Domantas Sabonis. And then I showed up. I'm the new sheriff in town. I'm like, I don't. I love the guy. I love Domantas Sabonis. Some people don't like the whole pinball screen action shit that they do up top. I think I watched a clip. Was it from Thinking Basketball? It wouldn't have been. I don't watch independent media like that. I don't know who it was. But someone was like diagramming some highway screens that Domantas Sabonis set, and they were like awesome. Most of the time, he just like sets a high screen, and De'Aaron Fox just like and then scores 60 points. And then if Nikola Jokic didn't have a pulse, I would say that Domantas Sabonis is also the best passing big in basketball. I would say that, and I would mean it, and I would believe it. If this was 2017, I would say that he's, and it was still the current version of Sabonis and Jokic, I would say that it's Jokic, then Yusuf Nurkic. You want to talk about a guy who's sneaky, has been one of the best passers I've ever seen in my life, but then as his career goes on, you're like, I don't know. But in Portland, like, he was nuts. Who's another one that I could throw in there? I'd like to throw Kevin Love in there, but it's not about Kevin Love being a great passer as a quote-unquote big, which, like, yeah, he's a big guy. He's a power forward. You can call him big. His thing is just outlet passes, which we don't even get that many of in 2024 anyways, outlet passes. Like, I talk about a quarterback, a dude who just does absolute nukes. Kevin Love, greatest outlet passer of all time. Rajon Rondo, who? Who the fuck is that? Kevin Love does not know who Rajon Rondo is if we're talking about outlet passes. So shout out to De'Aaron Fox and shout out to the Sacramento Kings. That's awesome to see. I don't have anything negative to say about it. I don't know even why I had to clarify my position on that because why the fuck would I have... Light the beam. Let's light the beam. copinghoursubs@gmail.com. Spelled phonetically. Email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. Let's finish up on 2 emails. This one I had no fucking idea what he's talking about. Michael, welcome to the show. Subject line, NBA jerseys are burnt fried. NBA jerseys are getting so fucking dumb. Why the fuck did the Celtics just rock lime green? Also, sorry about my LeVar Ball email. And that guy was wrong. Bin Laden was cool as hell. I don't know what the last 2 parts, what do those mean? The Celtics uniforms, I can get why you didn't like them. There are a lot of alternates this year. The statements, is what they are, city editions, whichever, Nike and their fucking racket, whichever ones they are. There are a lot of really dumb ones. The Celtics ones, yeah, I could take them or leave them. I get why people would hate them, though. I don't know what the LeVar Ball email was. I bet it was funny that I shit on it on the show. And then you concluded this masterpiece, this 3-sentence masterpiece with, and that guy was wrong. Bin Laden was cool as hell. Who was wrong? And when did we talk about this? I've been really trying to think about it. We did talk on the shoot around about how there's and I'm not saying that I believe this. But I did say on the shoot-around that I believe it, but canonically, this show and that show are different. Whatever I say on there, I do not say on here because I'm 2 different people. I don't even, you know what I mean? There's no carryover. 2 independent thoughts being had over on the shoot-around versus on the coping hour. I said, I softly conspired that the CIA did not actually kill Osama Bin Laden. They only did that to gain American favor. The Dems did that to gain popularity with their constituents. They're like, because isn't that the playbook, is whenever a presidential candidate, or rather not even a candidate, but a president is in crisis in terms of their approval rating, they just like pick a terrorist to kill. That's what they do. They're like, who's on the FBI's most wanted right now? All they have to do is like, they know where all of them are. They just do. And they're like, okay, which one should we kill? This guy would be easiest. All right, let's go kill that guy. And then they go out and then they do that. And then everybody's like, USA, USA. I remember very vividly the night that Osama Bin Laden was killed. Allegedly, that is what people are saying. Bury his ass at sea so that nobody can desecrate his grave. It's not important where he was buried. Yeah, because he's an asset. Because he wasn't buried. And the only reason that I even kind of believe this, the burying at sea thing, I could get around and I understand that. The only thing that to this day about that whole fucking operation that I do not understand is, I remember very vividly. I wake up to go to school the next morning. I'm eating my fucking Apple Jacks. I go to ESPN.go.com to look at headlines and cool clips and vote in Sports Nation polls and shit at 6 o'clock in the morning. And on the front page of ESPN, Osama Bin Laden killed, and they're chanting USA at a Phillies game. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. This is awesome. But, like, the whole thing was, we are not going to reveal the names of any of the SEALs who were involved in this operation within SEAL Team 6. I will not be gaslit into believing that didn't happen, because it did happen. I'm not getting CC Sabathia right now. They said, you will never know the names of these SEALs because we need to protect their identity. It is of paramount importance that nobody ever knows their names or sees their faces. And then this fucker, Robert O'Neill, like a year later, is like, yeah, I shot him in the face, and I'm going to write a book about it. And then, like, all of the other SEALs were like, and also I shot him too. I got a shot off too. And then he writes a book about it. He goes on like fucking Oprah. And he's like, that was me. That was me. And so why did that happen? Why did that guy's fine? And now he's like tweeting how he's going to like fuck a bunch of kids on Twitter because they were going to vote for Kamala Harris. As far as I understand, that's what his tweet basically meant. From what I was told, the report that came across my desk is that is what he said. That guy killed Osama Bin Laden. That guy did that. What was the email about? Let's do a different one. Let's do an etiquette email. In the last episode, we got an email from a guy who was like, hey, I could have told Tony Romo that he fucked up Jim Nance's Super Bowl call because I saw him at a college football game and I didn't do that. And I was like, that was a very nice thing for you to not do because that's not cool. That would not have been cool at all. So good job to that guy, right? So we got one from Landon. Landon, welcome back to the show. Subject line, how to treat famous people. In the last episode, you mentioned how saying something negative about a celebrity when you meet them is a bad thing to do. But I think I found the exception. Put on your seatbelts, folks. Today I saw someone who I recognized walking around, and I was almost positive that it was Matt Patricia. But then I realized it wasn't. It was just another dude with a beard, and I was running on 3 hours of sleep and a Mountain Dew. But it got me thinking about if Matt Patricia is one of the few famous people who I would actually insult if I met them, and I think he is. So am I a jerk, or would Matt Patricia deserve it? I think you're an asshole. Don't do that. Don't fucking do that. I don't care that we view on this program, and Landon, you would be aligned with me in this way, as like a real enemy of the state. Like if we could do a prisoner swap, Matt Patricia for Edward Snowden, I would do that. No questions asked. I'm dusting my hands. Welcome home, Edward Snowden. But I wouldn't say that to Matt Patricia's face because he is a person. And at the end of the day, we can say, oh, man, he didn't even fucking try, man. He's such a fucking loser. He's such a fraud. This is the internet. Like, who cares? We can say it on the internet. This is like what we do. It's whatever. I am one of those people that are like, it comes with the fucking territory. You kind of sign up for it. You're going to get ridiculed online. Just close your eyes. Then cyberbullying suddenly isn't so real anymore. There's the Tyler, the Creator, fucking nod that all of you want so desperately from me. Cyberbullying's not real. Just close your eyes. But if I saw Matt Patricia, you know what I would do? I wouldn't say a goddamn word to him. And if for some reason we were sitting on a plane next to each other, we're forced into having a conversation, I'd say, listen, brother, I'm a Lions fan. So like, what the hell? What the hell? But I wouldn't like be an asshole to him. There are just so few people that I feel like you should do that to. Osama Bin Laden is one. If you walk past, which you might, I don't know, at this in 2024, you might walk past Osama Bin Laden. At this point, I feel like whatever knowledge he had, whatever asset they viewed him as, was it 11 years ago that they killed him? Probably at this point would have disposed of him. I don't know. So maybe you would walk by him. He's like under a fake alias. They got him a witness protection. What would you say to Osama Bin Laden? Be like, God damn, like what a generational terrorist attack that was. Like that was fucking horrible. Just watch the whole feature on 60 Minutes about how 23 years after 9/11, they're still trying to identify remains. Maddie's whole thing was like, if I'm one of those families, I don't want to know. I've closed that chapter of my life. Don't fucking show up at my door and be like, we identified this bone fragment of your fucking husband. That's going to fuck me up for like 5 more years. At this point, don't tell me. She's got a point. There's some merit to that, right? So you can say some bullshit to Osama Bin Laden if you want. Who are some other people in the world right now that you could do that to? Dog, even like Roger Goodell. No, I wouldn't say shit to Roger. Don't say anything to him. Don't boo him. Don't throw fucking garbage at him. Don't be assholes to people just because you don't like them. You don't know these people. Georgia Maloney. You could do some shit like that to Georgia Maloney. It's a world leader. It's different, you know. Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy. The closest I will ever get, you know, in 2024, people use the word Nazi and fascist pretty liberally. As soon as somebody is ideologically opposed to them, if you're a left-leaning person, and somebody is like, hey, I think it's kind of weird when, like, this thing happens. Someone's like, what are you, fucking fascist? What are you, fucking Nazi? It's like, shut up. It's just a buzzword to people now. Giorgia Meloni is close, I think. She's wild. That woman is crazy. So there were some this was like at the beginning of her stint as the PM. There were like some Africans who were like fleeing. They were refugees. They're like, we're in like a fucking civil war. And they're fleeing across the sea to, I don't know, find refuge in Italy. And she set up a naval blockade. She was like, hell no. She's like, no black people, no brown people. Unless you're Italian, you are not supposed to be here. We do not want any more immigrants, especially Africans that are fleeing a civil war. Hell no. Get the hell out of here. That woman's crazy. You can boo her. You can throw some tomatoes at her. If you, be honest here, be honest. You're walking down the street and you're like looking at your phone. You got headphones on. You're kind of not paying attention. You bump shoulders with someone and you do the thing, like you turn around. You're like, fucking asshole. Watch where you're going, even though you weren't watching where you were going. And it's Kim Jong Un. You know what I mean? Like, what are you really going to say to that guy? Because first of all, he's going to be as big as like my phone. It's going to be just like walking around like this. Second of all, he's going to be a fucking pumpkin. You're just going to look at him. You might do like a nasal exhale. It's fucking Kim Jong Un. And you're going to keep walking before you even realize what happened. Now, if you were able to clock it immediately and you're like, Kim Jong Un, like, what are you really going to say? Because like most of the shit that we know about the People's Republic of North Korea is either conjecture or it's from like documented survivors who actually fled North Korea and are like, no, this is like what it's like there. So like, what are you going to say that you know for sure about North Korea? I would just be like, what's Rodman like? I'm a Pistons fan, Kim Jong Un. What the hell is Rodman like? Also, chill with the nuke shit, because like that's not real. It's not real. I believe that you got some. Also, like, hey, are you worried that the soldiers that you sent to Russia, who are now like addicted to porn, are you worried about them coming back to, because the genie's out of the bottle on that one. How are they supposed to go back to the People's Republic of North Korea? I would refer to it as its preferred nomenclature if I was talking to the Supreme Leader, Kim Jong Un. How do you expect them to re-assimilate into North Korean society when they've seen the internet now and they've seen somewhere that's not North Korea? Like, what do you know what I mean? Those guys can't come home. There's no way. Well, I guess I'm saying that. There's probably not really any intent for them to come home. Would love to know if there are any numbers on them fleeing. North Koreans being like, we figured out what porn is and we like it better than war. And you sent us here to do war. We're going to go to like Belarus. And then by way of that, we're going to go to like Norway. And then we're just going to do the porn thing. And then there's now going to be, it's going to be like when the Germans, when the Nazis, the real Nazis, fled and went to like Brazil and Argentina. And so now you have these major population centers in South America where it's just like white people, it's just Germans. It's going to be like that, but with North Koreans, not just any Koreans, North Koreans, in like some Scandinavian country. Because they just went there and they fled the conflict in Ukraine. And then they just started watching porn. And then they're like, this is pretty cool. And then they'll figure out, they'll like stop being incels and they'll be like, wait, these women are real? Women exist? We can have sex with women? And then, because what is their sex education like? Does the average North Korean know how to use contraception? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say if this was on FanDuel, what parlay would I throw together? Let's throw together a 3-leg parlay for militant, this paramilitary group of North Koreans in Russia right now, Ukraine right now. Shit that there's no way that they know. Okay, so how to use the internet? They're figuring it out. They're like, we love porn. Do they know how to use contraception? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to put it at minus 10,000. There's no fucking shot. Do they know how to drive a car? Yeah, they would know how to drive a car. They would know how, that would be a part of their training. They have tank crews. That would be part of their training. What's something else that in North Korea, there's no fucking way. I'm just trying to think, like, put it in terms of, like, would they know about not being able to have a carry-on? Or rather that you can't. You're flying United. Okay, you get one bag, you get one personal, and you get one carry-on. Do they know that? Or are they going to show up with 6 bags and then be like, why the fuck do you mean I have to pay $200 to check 5 bags? They don't know about that. That's minus 55,000. This is a really shitty leg. This is a bad parlay. I'm not getting any value on this. So far, we're at minus 10,000, minus 55,000. So what's something, I'm going to actually kill this segment. If you're listening to this on Spotify listeners, you guys let me know about your first jobs in the last episode. Now, if I was a lesser man, I would actually make you guys finish this segment, and I would say, give me something else that there's just no way a North Korea knows how to do in an active war zone. I don't want to do that, though, because I don't want the comment section to look kind of ostensibly racist. And I'm worried that if I frame it that way, then that's the way that it's going to go. You know what we actually just got for the first time? I haven't had a box of cereal, and Spotify listeners, I'm still talking to you. I got cereal today and milk. I haven't had I'm going to smash a bowl, because the reason I don't get cereal anymore is because I'm an adult and I don't have to portion control, and I will just eat the whole fucking box in like one sitting. But we used Amazon's like grocery delivery system today for the first time. We wanted to see what it was like. You get insane deals on there. Like you get a family-sized box of Apple Jacks for like $3. You know how expensive cereal is these days? You get a family-sized box for $3? Hell yes. All right, hook that shit up. Get a gallon of milk. Apple Jacks, not my favorite cereal, but I haven't had it in so long. And I was like, yeah, sure, do some Apple Jacks. It was that or Fruit Loops, and I only wanted the Fruit Loops if they had marshmallows. But they didn't have that. I still like Fruit Loops, but I just really wanted the marshmallow one. Got some Apple Jacks. So Spotify listeners, what's your go-to cereal that you're going to crush? If you still eat cereal. Or if you don't eat cereal, can I think of better questions for you guys in the future? I ask you guys such fucking elementary questions. What's your next week on the next episode of the Coping Hour? Hey, Spotify listeners, what's your favorite color? Ask you such boring questions. Just do the cereal thing. I'll hook you guys up at some point. Give you guys a better question. Love you, Spotify listeners. You guys have been crushing it. I say it every single episode the last like few weeks, but seriously, I'm genuine. Like, I'm just so happy with the numbers on there and the engagement too. And of course on YouTube too, which YouTube in their fucking racket, which they pushed an update that fucked with the functionality of the comment section. So half of the people who watch the videos don't even see a comment section. They can't even leave anything. They can't even read anything. Hopefully that's fixed by now. Probably not. Folks, if you're listening to this on Spotify, be sure to leave a like. Nope. Be sure to leave 5 stars. Let me know what your favorite cereal is. It's such a boring question. When Spotify listeners... No, just do the cereal one. I don't need to confuse you guys. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Got to keep primary control in check. I will catch you guys in the next one.
Beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful. Primary control.